We are wrestling. We are wrestling podcast.
They give a shout out to We Are Wrestling on YouTube.
You're watching We Are Wrestling.
I'm the host with the most.
You are by far the least intelligent.
What's going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling.
What's going on? We are Wrestling Maniacs Worldwide. Ben here, the third of the talk show.
We Are Wrestling Podcast.
Make sure to subscribe, baby.
And
We are wrestling.
what is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host with the most, the best one, Donnie, here with.
What's going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling. It's me and Donnie running solo this week, but I hope you guys enjoy. We have a lot of good topics that we're going to be discussing. Donnie, man, what is going on, brother? Take it away.
That's right. And we want to welcome all the audio listeners here to the We Are Wrestling Podcast, because now we are officially on Spotify. We're waiting for Apple and Google to approve the We Are Wrestling Podcast. But now, if you guys want to, just listen to us and not watch us, we'll also be having audio versions of the podcast over on Spotify. It's long overdue, Danny. But before we get into the topics for this week, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, the best way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button now, turning on the post notifications. Videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO. And of course, you already know the grind is real. And we'll be doing a watch along later on today for WWE Backlash. We'll be live on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel and the Danny H Vlogs YouTube channel as well. We'll be doing a multi-stream for WWE Backlash in Puerto Rico. And if you have not checked out the predictions for Backlash after the podcast, recommend you guys to go check that out. You can check it out on, some podcasting sites, or you can watch it on the YouTube page.
Absolutely, man. I feel like we weren't really in depth, man, and, analyze the entire card, and I feel like we gave some really good points, man. So make sure you guys check it out.
I think so, man, as well. I think we really dived into them, and that's what we usually do when it comes to our pay-per-view predictions videos. We love to just dive into the matches. We love to talk about the storylines leading to the matches, what we think is going to happen, what we think is going to happen 2 weeks from now. We really like to go into depth when it comes to, the pay-per-view predictions.
I
Because
feel like we
anybody
do
can
that.
just pick who they want to win.
I feel like we do that with, whenever we have a podcast or anything like wrestling related, anything on the channel, we like to analyze, man. You know, we're very passionate about this sport and about, this industry, and, we want to treat it with the utmost respect, and we just love talking about it, man.
That's right. We are Wrestling Maniacs, just like you listeners out there. So, with that being said, let's get into the first topic for this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling Podcast 55. So, we're going to start off with a banger. So, during a recent interview with Busted Open Radio, Trinity Fatu, Naomi from WWE, former WWE superstar, finally opens up about why she left WWE. She stated, "I felt very stagnant and I wasn't happy. Ultimately, I left WWE that day because of the way I was talked to and handled. Everything kind of just broke me that day." What are your thoughts on Trinity's comments during Busted Open Radio?
Well,
Because now she's a part of Impact Wrestling.
she is. She just recently made her debut last week, I believe. A week ago, 2 days ago, a week ago Thursday, whenever that was. Um, you know, around that time, obviously this was before Triple H took over. Vince McMahon was still heavily involved in creative. Vince McMahon it's been publicly stated that Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and all those guys, in Vince McMahon's pocket think that women's wrestling is a waste of time. They don't like to put, too much effort into booking the women's division. So I mean, same reason I feel like the same reason why Mercedes left or Sasha Banks, whatever you want to call her. But I I feel like they cemented their legacy. They are bound for the WWE Hall of Fame at some point, even if they never come back. Um, but they've been on the big stages. They've been in front of the bright lights. They've been in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, if Naomi thinks she's gonna be more comfortable and she's gonna be better in a smaller place like Impact, then all the credit to her for going somewhere to where she's actually gonna be happy. Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy, it's gonna show in your performance. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I made the decision to take a break from content creating after WrestleMania, because the stress, it shows. And we all know Naomi and Sasha Banks, they weren't happy in WWE during this time. Even though they were the WWE Women Tag Team Champions, they weren't being booked like legitimate tag team champions. They
Mhm.
wanted them to, lose to, the Raw and the SmackDown Women's World Champions and devalue the titles. And they both didn't really like the direction that, the women's tag teams were going in, because before these titles were announced, there were lots of broken promises that happened. And I think Sasha and Naomi, they have too much respect for the business, and seeing what Vince McMahon was doing during his final days in WWE, they didn't like the direction WWE was going in with the women, and I think that's when they decided to take their ball and go home.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, all the credit to them, for, you know, doing what they felt like they had to for their mental state, for their, choosing different, like, because being in WWE, I feel like it's a safe haven. Like you're used to it. You know people there. You're making really really good money. You have a great living for yourself. But to leave all that behind and then go to a place you've never been before, I don't know if Trinity's ever been to Impact. I know Sasha Banks or Mercedes has never been to New Japan. So going from WWE to where you're used to it, people there, it's being familiar with something. And then, doing something different. I mean, all the credit to them for doing what they felt like they needed to do.
And that's the thing, like with Naomi, she was, WWE bound. I think her whole career, she signed with WWE. They found her,
She was a
and
part of the Funkadactyls.
well, she did do a lot of training with FCW before becoming a Funkle and being on WWE TV.
Mhm.
And, with Sasha Banks, she was in the independent circuit for a few years before, getting signed to WWE. And
She trained at the Chaotic Wrestling facility in Andover, Massachusetts, man.
that's right, in our home state. And that's the thing, like, both, Sasha and Naomi, I think they've accomplished everything they wanted to do in WWE. And honestly, like, WWE didn't have anything for them. And I feel like they both wanted more in wrestling. And I think there's a lot more things for them to accomplish outside of World Wrestling Entertainment than just being there and just, being a pawn and putting over, the people that they have.
Yep. And like, Mercedes and Trinity, like they're still very young. Mercedes, I think she just turned 30 or she's 31. I do see them being back at WWE at some point. It's not like they're gonna be gone forever, but for the time being, I mean, they're doing what they felt like they needed to do. So, all the credit to them.
And here's what I like about Mercedes and Trinity both leaving WWE. They really made a lot of noise, and I think they're really bringing a lot more eyes to New Japan. They're bringing more eyes to Impact. They're bringing more eyes to wrestling itself, because there's more than just WWE. And I think every wrestling fan is starting to realize that. and it's really starting to open the doors. And I think Impact, this was a brilliant signing for them because Impact has lost a lot of momentum, through the years. They're currently with Anthem right now, and they have, still been putting on consistent shows, even though it's not the same like it was in Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida. And, with Dixie Carter, it's very different. But TNA is still alive. They're still, have a pretty underrated, good roster. And from what I'm hearing, the pay-per-view matches the pay-per-view shows that they've been putting on have been some of the best, in pro wrestling, which is absolutely crazy. And remind you, out of all the women wrestlers in the business right now, Impact, they have one of the most stacked, women divisions out there.
Yeah, from from what everybody says, and I haven't watched Impact in years.
Same here.
Last time I watched Impact, the Hardys were actually there. And they had a feud with the Wolves. Remember them?
I do.
Um, it's been a minute since I actually watched, but from what everybody's saying, they have a good tag division, good women's division. Like their mid card division is great. Their main event scene is spectacular. It's all about their management, bro. They're not viewable by a large audience because they're on a television station that very few people have. And
Nobody
it's
has
it
access to Access TV. That's
it
the
is
issue.
it is fucking crippling. How they're able to pay all their performers to make a somewhat of a comfortable living doing what they do is beyond me, bro. I don't know how the fuck they've lasted this long. They went
Well,
from Spike TV to this.
here's why, Danny, they have lasted pretty long. It's because Scott D'Amore, who is a TNA original, he's done a fantastic job trying to rebuild Impact Wrestling. And a lot of, his superstars that are a part of Impact, they're all behind his vision and what he has planned for the future for Impact Wrestling. But the issue is, it's Anthem. They put them on Access TV that nobody has access to. That's my only issue. But getting back into, Trinity's comments, I think that she has valid reasons. And at the end of the day, she's a very talented, performer in the ring. And they really weren't doing anything with her except for, the whole glow thing. And I
Mhm.
feel like with Impact Wrestling, having a stacked, women's division, there's more opportunities out there for her to succeed.
Exactly, man. Like I said, she achieved a lot in, her short time on this planet. Not many people her age have done as much as she has done. And I do think her and Mercedes end up back in WWE at some point. It's pretty much inevitable. They're still very, very young. They have, their entire lives ahead of them. People assume like, oh, you're 30, your life's half over. Not your life is around the age, bro. Your life is fucking just barely getting started. Especially in a
Especially in
business
pro wrestling.
especially in a business like this, man. Diamond Dallas Page didn't begin training until he was like 35. You know what I mean?
But one thing I gotta say, man, I love the relationship that Trinity and Mercedes has. Like seeing
Mhm.
them two supporting each other, especially, during this big move, because of course, both of them have been getting a lot of backlash for, leaving WWE the way they did. And just having both of them having each other's backs and like supporting one another, seeing Mercedes in the crowd watching Trinity's first time on the mic, seeing Trinity backstage at, Wrestle Kingdom, watching Mercedes, wrestle for the first time. I really love, the friendship that they have built. And I love that, like, they're really bringing more eyes to pro wrestling, which is at the end of the day what we want as
Yep.
fans,
Yep.
the real fans, should
The
say.
real France. That's because all these fucking mindless drones online, unless it's WWE, it's not the way to go. There's so many pro wrestling fans that only watch WWE. That's all they fucking know. And those are the people that, oh, I want New Japan to fail. I want Ring of Honor to fail. I want AEW to fail. When in reality, if you're a pro wrestling fan, bro, like you should appreciate this time. There was once a time to where all there was WCW and WWE. ECW was still on the come up. It wasn't until like late 90s, early 2000s when it got put on TNT to where you were able to watch it at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning at one point. Like, we live in a fantastic time, bro. We have so much access to different promotions, and we get to see different talent coming up, bro. Like, could you imagine if we were in the era of Hulk Hogan right now, but we got to see all these different things happening in the world of pro wrestling, bro? Like, it would be insane, you know? So instead of hating, you should fucking appreciate it that, all if you don't like WWE, watch AEW. If you don't like that, watch Ring of Honor. If you don't like that, watch Impact, watch New Japan, watch Stardom, watch Noah, watch all these mindless, countless independent promotions, man. What is it? IWTV? Sign up, man. You can watch every single independent show on the fucking planet. High spots, pro wrestling network. Like you can watch Northeast Wrestling. Like we are just swimming in pro wrestling right now in today's age. So instead of hating, people need to start fucking appreciating it.
Exactly. And, for Trinity and Mercedes to be bringing more eyes to pro wrestling is a great thing. And I really do hope that Trinity succeeds in Impact. I really hope that she could bring more eyes to the product because that's a great move for, a good promotion. And
Mhm.
all the Impact wrestlers that I meet, they have nothing but positive things to say about that promotion. And I really want them to succeed. I really want them to, get on a better TV network. I want them to, get more eyes on the product. And now that Trinity is there, myself, I'm probably going to have to, try to find a way to get access to Access TV and watch, some of her work because I've always loved her work in WWE
Don't they
and
don't they show
I want to see her work in Impact.
Don't they stream the weekly shows on their YouTube channel for like you have to have like a membership or something like that?
I have
We're gonna have
no clue, man.
we're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, we are. But moving on now to our next topic on this week's episode of the podcast. Former WWE superstar Alicia Fox is no longer in WWE. Her contract just expired recently, and she's been with the promotion for quite some time now. What are your thoughts on this?
To be honest, bro, I wasn't even aware she was still signed to WWE. Like I saw an article on it the other day. Alicia Fox, leaves WWE, and I was like, I thought she left years ago. Like she must have been like a producer or something backstage, because you never see her on TV. I this is no slight against her. Like I'm not bad talking. I'm not bashing anybody. I legitimately had no idea she was still there, and that's me being real. That's not me being funny. You know.
Yeah, I think a lot of us in, the IWC forgot that Alicia Fox was still employed with WWE. I know she did make some surprise appearances in the Royal Rumbles, for the women's division. A lot of people really enjoyed it. And she's had a fantastic run in WWE for all these years.
First time I remember seeing her was remember when Edge was gonna marry Vicky Guerrero, and they had Edge cheated on Vicky with Alicia Fox. She was like the wedding planner.
Yeah, like Crystal or something. That was her name before.
Something like that. That was like 2011, maybe 2010.
Yeah, and then I remember, her winning the Divas Championship and being a part of the Women's Revolution when it began.
Yeah.
And she also,
But
was on multiple seasons of Total Divas as well.
a lot of people in WWE, like a lot of their signed talent or whatever, a lot like we're seeing it now with two dudes from NXT. I can't remember the name out, so I don't even want to try. They're part of Joe Gacy's crew. Like they asked for the release recently, they didn't get it, so they're just gonna sit out the remainder of the contract. A lot of times that does happen. But I don't know if she was like an in-ring performer. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to be a full-time in-ring performer to be in the Royal Rumble. Maybe she was like a producer backstage helping the women. I don't know what her status within the company was, but I legitimately had no idea she was still with the company. So
Yeah, and I think, she's done more than a lot of people probably expected her to do in WWE, going from, being a part of, a love angle to, doing all of these amazing opportunities that WWE gave her. And I think that, I don't see her I can't see her like in AEW or just like any promotion. I think that, she's just going to continue to be like a personality and just, continue to grow outside the business, which is what we want, for all the talent.
Exactly. We're gonna have to see where she goes. Maybe, I mean, there is a possibility that AEW signs her to be like some kind of like backstage role, like helping the women or something. God
She is
knows
friends
it.
with Saraya. That is true.
WWE and AEW have the same fucking issues, man. I've talked at length about it. They need a woman to work backstage to help develop the women division. It needs to happen, bro. So
That's why
if
Impact's women's division is so good because they have Gail Kim.
So Tony Khan, man, doubt you'll ever see this. Sign fucking Alicia Fox if you have to, man. Let her work with the women because God knows they fucking need it.
Yeah, Alicia Fox is definitely a veteran in the business.
I just have an issue
Definitely
with
somebody I would consider having backstage.
I have an issue with men trying to write storylines for women because it's just like, what does a man know about being a woman? You know what I mean? It's just sign Alicia Fox, man, if you need to.
Yeah. But guys, we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling. Saturday, June 17th, 2023, both Captain's Corner and Zombie Hideout are bringing professional wrestling back to the New England area with the Wrestling Classic 3, which will be a wrestling convention bringing in some of the best wrestlers throughout the years at this event in Springfield, Mass. at the South End Community Center. You can meet Hall of Famers Kurt Angle, Lex Luger, DDP, AEW stars, The Guns, and so many more classic stars to be announced on Saturday, June 17th. And for the first time ever, We Are Wrestling. We're going to be a vendor. We're going to be working with Zombie Hideout and Captain's Corner with this event. Best One Donnie has had the opportunity to go to both the Wrestling Classic 1 and 2, and let me tell you, the Wrestling Classic 3 is going to be like no other. And if you want to, have an opportunity to meet some of the best in the business, they will be in Springfield, Mass. on Saturday, June 17th. South End Community Center in Springfield, Mass. Also, the We Are Wrestling team will be there with a table. We'll be having merchandise, and we'll also be giving away some stuff as well. And of course, you already know, we'll be vlogging as well. You're definitely not going to want to miss this event. Get your tickets now. We're back, and a new thing that we're doing here on the We Are Wrestling podcast, comment of the week. So, we recommend all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs to go to our YouTube channel and comment on our content, because every week we're going to be picking a random comment that we're going to showcase and just, give some spotlight to one of our We Are Wrestling Maniacs. And this week, this comment was on the MJF Try Not to Laugh compilation that has over 1 million views on the We Are Wrestling channel. Thank you, MJF, for being a We Are Wrestling Maniac.
You fucking mark.
And this user at Jimmy Midnight 42, he commented, "If I was a wrestler, I'd 100% be a heel. They have a lot more fun."
Well, Mr. Nightmare, they in fact do. Being a heel, I feel like being a heel character, I mean, you pretty much just have to be a douchebag. Is there anything easier than that?
Yeah, one of the biggest heels, Jimmy, is my twin brother, Don Styles. He calls himself the privileged one. He even calls himself the best one. Wonder who he got that from.
He's a dick.
Yeah. But honestly, if I had to pick, being a heel or, a babyface, if I was a pro wrestler, I'd go with being a heel. Because I feel like it would just be more fun getting under people's skin, especially wrestling fans.
Absolutely, man.
So, congratulations, Jimmy Nightmare, for your comment of the week. And if you want your comment to be spotlighted on a future episode of the podcast, comment our videos, because we look at all the comments that you guys post.
Can't you comment on the audio too, on Spotify and stuff? We're gonna have to look into that. Maybe we can implement the Spotify listens too, the listeners too.
That's right. And soon, Apple Podcast. And
Give us a
Google
5-star
Podcast.
rating, man, because we're fucking awesome, and we guys give you the kind of content that you need to hear.
We give you guys the scoop because we try to keep you guys in the loop. So,
Hey, that's a
our
nice
next
tagline.
topic that we're going to be talking about on this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling podcast, man, Impact Wrestling. We're acknowledging them this week because AEW star CM Punk was recently at the Impact Wrestling tapings that took place last Friday. And Fightful Select reports that CM Punk was playing Uno, and he spoke with over a dozen Impact Wrestling talent while he was there. Punk reportedly had kind words to say for a couple of wrestlers he met, and everyone there described him as pleasant, and he seemed to be happy to be there. What were your thoughts on seeing these reports that CM Punk showed up to the recent Impact Wrestling tapings that took place last week?
I read somewhere somebody was talking about this, and they were like, it almost seems like CM Punk is going on a tour, man. Because the other week he was at Raw, this week, last week he was on Impact. He's gearing up for his AEW return, which is going to be June 17th, the day of the Wrestling Classic 3. If you guys want to see us, make sure you guys come out, Springfield, Mass.
South End
and
Community Center.
tickets at zombie underscore, is it underscore or zombiehideout.com, whatever the website is. Link is in the description. Buy tickets and come and meet us, man. But yeah, it almost seems like CM Punk is going on a tour. Like he wants it to be known. Like back in February or March, he flew to San Diego and went to the New Japan show, and that was a huge deal because all kinds of selfies were circulating online with him, and he went with Lars. Can't remember the name of the band he's in. His band does the music for Ruby Soho on AEW. Lars Fredrickson. But it almost seems like he's going on tour. He wants people to be like, "Hey, man, I'm still here. I'm still relevant, and I love this." I don't think we've ever seen CM Punk in Impact. I think he wrestled there back in the day.
He wrestled
But
there back in the day, but this is why this is big news, because he didn't leave on the best of terms, because after he left Impact around, I think, 2003, 2004, he went to Ring of Honor to finish off his independent run.
yeah, man. So CM Punk, and I do feel like, and I've said this. I think I said this on one of the last episodes of the podcast. Um, it almost seems like when CM Punk comes back, this is a CM Punk we haven't seen before. He's repairing all the bridges that he's burned in his past. He talked to Triple H, he talked to the Miz, and they weren't on the best of terms. A lot of people in WWE do not like CM Punk, but he went there and tried to make amends with a lot of people. He just met with Chris Jericho. So Chris Jericho apparently is going to be his first feud when he comes back. He went to Impact. He's been going to a lot of Mercedes matches, and like I said, New Japan. The day of Elimination Chamber, he was in San Diego, and it's good, man, because like a lot of people, it's almost like a Jeff Hardy situation. Somebody can only screw up so many times before people just wash their hands with him, and I feel like CM Punk was the same way, because though he didn't do the kind of stuff Jeff Hardy did, he did burn a lot of bridges by saying not the best things. But I do feel like he's repairing a lot of the damage that he did, because he's grow. I feel like this whole brawl out situation has made him grow as a person. He's never screwed up as bad as he did that night, and I feel like over the last couple of months, he's really like, bro, like he almost did a lot of damage.
Yeah, no, I definitely have to agree with that. I think that, CM Punk, he loves his business again. I said this last week on the podcast. I think that, he found his love for pro wrestling again, and AEW tapings took place in Chicago. He probably wanted to visit some friends and, show his support to Impact Wrestling, which I really like for CM Punk, because he's showing that he cares about the business by, going there and showing his support, supporting some of his buddies that he used to work with in WWE, and, play Uno with some of them.
And he took a picture with Jordan Grace. I saw that photo too. So
Who's, a
circulating
very
online.
bright talent over there.
She's married to Josh Grisham, who was former Ring of Honor champion, and now I don't know what he's doing, but
And that's the thing, like, I feel like CM Punk, wanted to go there and just have a good time, catch up with some of his old buddies, and just, show his support to Impact Wrestling in his hometown. And I really like that about him. But there is a question that I would like to ask you and get your opinion on.
what's up, man?
So, we have seen, some wrestling legends go on their podcast and pretty much call out CM Punk and pretty much saying that this whole thing that he's doing, showing up to WWE, showing up to Impact, this is all like a publicity stunt. And they think that, one legend in particular, Eric Bischoff on 83 Weeks, even said that he thinks that AEW shouldn't bring back CM Punk. He's garbage. He does not deserve to wrestle in front of, Wembley Stadium so that he can have that ego to where he could be saying, "Oh, I sold out Wembley Stadium."
Hmm.
Because we know how CM Punk is. How do you feel about some of these, legends and other fans that don't like CM Punk pretty much saying that this whole CM Punk, tour going on is a whole publicity stunt for attention?
Well, there was a lot of guys in WWE that said the same thing or whatever. It might be. I mean, it's ironic that he's doing this now when he's going to be returning in a month. And no slight against Eric Bischoff, he's been in the business. He's a legend in the business. He can say whatever. I've always said this, you know, people who have been in the business and have some kind of legend status in the business, they have a right to say whatever the fuck they want way before I do because they've been in the business. I'm just a content creator, a guy that loves business and loves talking about it. So obviously they have the right to say whatever they want. I don't. Me and you, we're not on the same team as them, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Um, but I did hear that little snippet. I am a frequent listener of Eric Bischoff's podcast, Risky Business with John Alba. Um, so I listen to his podcast clips every so often whenever they show up on my feed. And he basically said that guys like CM Punk and Bill Goldberg and Mercedes, Eric Bischoff doesn't necessarily think it's a good idea to have them on the show because Tony needs to see if he or get the recognition behind his full-time talent as the reason why they're going to be selling out Wembley Stadium. You shouldn't rely on part-timers and people that are doing a one-off, to get asses in seats. Part of that I do understand, and then part of me is like, again, no slight against Eric Bischoff, but how much of that is actually genuine because of all the issues, publicly and personally that Eric Bischoff has with Tony Khan. So it's hard
Very
it's hard
true.
to it's hard to say, if he's being genuine, if he really feels this way, if he is happy for Tony Khan with, all the success, or if he's just like, yeah, fuck this asshole. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing I feel like I have to, somewhat agree with you on. I think that I have to agree with Eric Bischoff in a sense. I think that, we don't need Mercedes. We don't need Goldberg to sell out that arena. And Tony Khan does need to put more trust into his homegrown AEW talent and, the guys that he already has. Because he already has a whole roster, I think over 200 performers under contract with AEW Ring of Honor.
Mhm.
But I feel like CM Punk doesn't fall into that category. He was injured, he was on the sidelines, and he is an AEW star. So I think at All In, if you have a guy like CM Punk under contract, you would be stupid not to have him wrestle in front of 80,000 people.
I also forgot to mention that Eric Bischoff doesn't like CM Punk either. So again, how much of this is Eric Bischoff, just hating on them, and how much of it is him actually caring and actually giving some friendly advice to them.
Well, you see here, a lot of people don't like CM Punk, and that's why, the news and, the wrestling community, CM Punk gets such a bad light because a lot of people in the wrestling community, especially wrestling legends, they will always put their personal vendettas against, wrestlers before the business itself. And they wonder why we don't get 5 to 6 million viewers every week.
Hmm. Exactly.
Like on the Jim Cornette experience. Any chance he gets to take shots at Vince Russo, he will. Anytime
And
Vince
Kenny
Russo
Omega.
has the chance to take shots at somebody, he will.
Yep.
That's just the business that we like.
But I feel like if you now again, I don't play in the same ballpark as them. I'm just we're fans. We love this business as much as anybody else. But again, we haven't rode the miles. We haven't took the bumps. We haven't done so people like Eric Bischoff and Jim Cornette, they have a say over before anybody like me and you. But again, I feel like if you're in the pro wrestling industry, like you legitimately have a career in this, I feel like everybody is on this should be, or at least should be on the same team. There should be nobody at odds with each other. You guys have the same goals in mind.
Yep, but that's the thing, Danny. We're in a selfish business, and especially when it comes to main event talent, they will put themselves over before they put somebody else over. We've seen it through the years. MJF, there's a reason why he's one of the most successful homegrown AEW talent
Yep.
because that man has put himself before anybody else, even the company he works for, which, can be very unpopular. But in the business, if you want to be a star, you have to act like a star. And sometimes stars, they're selfish. That's just the name of the game,
Sometimes,
unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes sometimes you got to be like that from a business sense. But like, I'm talking about guys like not like pro wrestlers who obviously pro wrestling is a very competitive industry, a very competitive sport. So obviously you're gonna be at odds with each other. But at the end of the day, you have the same goals. You both want to put asses in seats. You both want to put on the best performance. And I feel like people shouldn't be at odds for stupid, mindless reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that CM Punk definitely regrets what he did during the whole, brawl out situation. And, for the media to try to turn all of this around, I don't like that because you can hate CM Punk all you want. You can love CM Punk all you want. But we all know for a fact that CM Punk is, a draw still to this day.
Oh
CM
yeah.
Punk still puts asses in seats. CM Punk is still one of the best. And there's a reason why for years after he left WWE, all the fans would still be chanting his name.
Exactly, man. And like I said, I'm actually really excited for his return. I'm excited to see what he does. You know what I mean? And seeing Jericho and CM Punk, they had a hellacious feud back in WWE when Jericho was bringing up like Punk's like alcoholic father and like all the like traumatic stuff that
That was
Punk
a great
experienced.
storyline.
So for them to revisit that in some way. Obviously, they're probably not going to be able to mention a lot of what happened on WWE, but you know, it's going to be awesome. I'm interested in seeing what they do. And Jericho and Punk, they're both legends, bro. I mean, they both know exactly what the fuck they're doing.
And you already know, like, the whole cancer to the locker room thing, that's going to be brought up. And I think they're both going to dive deep into the storyline to get
Yeah,
people drawn in, which I can't wait to see what happens because CM Punk and Chris Jericho, they're both professionals at the end of the day. And we know that they're going to tell a great story leading to the match that they're going to have.
exactly, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
And honestly, man, seeing CM Punk get Impact, like I'm happy for Impact Wrestling.
Playing some Uno, man. I used to play that with my grandmother all the time.
Hell yeah, man. And I'm just happy that CM Punk, people are welcoming him with open arms, and there's just nothing but positive things being said about these recent visits. And I love seeing that because we all know the wrestling media, they love to, paint Punk as the villain. But you can't
Mhm.
paint Punk as the villain when these reporters like Fightful and, PW Insider are coming out giving us full details on
I
what's
give
going on.
I give a lot of credit to Mike Johnson, who actually wrote the report about Punk's Monday Night Raw visit. He didn't. There was no hidden agendas there. He was out front. About everything that happened. Punk wasn't. There's no secret meetings. Punk wasn't behind any locked doors. Like he was in public view of people entering the arena. And that was one of the best reports in recent memory that I've seen about Punk, that there was no, hatred or hidden agenda or anything like that. So shout out to Mike Johnson for writing that report because, I feel like him doing that showed the kind of character that he is.
And that's the thing too, Danny. When it comes down to it, CM Punk, even in these Impact reports, they talked about the man playing Uno, bro. Uno. I love that because the media can't turn anything around. What? Punk was just at a wrestling show playing Uno with some buddies, catching up, taking some photos, having a good time.
Mhm.
They can't turn nothing around, and I love that.
Exactly.
But moving on now to our next topic on this week's episode of the podcast. There are reports now that AEW will no longer be doing Dark and Elevation, and there will be no more YouTube shows for AEW. They will be putting their YouTube type of shows on Warner Media from the reports that I was given. What are your thoughts on AEW deciding to move on now from Dark and Elevation?
Well, first of all, when they originally put on Dark and Dark Elevation on YouTube, it was definitely a great way for them to grow their platform, grow their YouTube channel. Obviously they have a long ways to go before they hit the fucking 92 million that, WWE has. But obviously WWE, that's, 60 years worth of fucking content. But I think it's good. You gotta grow and you gotta expand, you know what I mean? Hence, our podcast, we're not just on YouTube now, we're on Spotify and we're on Buzzsprout, we're on, doing audio stuff now. If you stay in one place for too long, people end up getting burnt out. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good thing. And I never watched Dark or Dark Elevation, so I don't know what their viewer count was. Maybe it's a good thing, and I have heard that before Dynamite now they started doing the Ring of Honor tapings and stuff like that. So that's taken the place of Elevation. You always got to grow and expand. You can't stay in the same bubble for too long, especially if you're trying to grow this company. You want to be taken serious. And even though streaming is like the new thing nowadays, YouTube is, when you be like, yeah, I have a wrestling show on YouTube, people look at that weird. But if you like, yeah, I have a weekly wrestling show on, HBO Max, this
They're going to take it more serious.
definitely sounds a little bit more professional. So, I mean, A1 for Tony, man, for, changing things up.
And that's
Obviously,
something that you do have to do in order to grow the business.
with AW Collision happening June 17th, it's going to be on Saturday nights, 2 hours. Apparently it's going to be live. I'll be the deciding factor in that, because if it's not live, I'm not going to be watching it. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, man. I couldn't watch Elevate. Some of the stuff on Elevation did intrigue me, but obviously I do Raw watch alongs, and that's on before Raw, so I couldn't do that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future.
And when it comes to the pro wrestling business, even, sports entertainment with WWE, you have to evolve your product and things get old pretty quick. And with AEW Dark and, Dark Elevation, during Daly's Place, when they had no crowd and, they did the shutdown, that's when AEW Dark really strived. They really succeeded because they gave, a lot of independent guys an opportunity to show what they can do. We even got the Acclaimed out of it. Max
Because
Caster.
back then, with COVID, independent shows weren't allowed to run, but AEW was a whole different beast or whatever. So they allowed talent around Florida and other places or whatever to still be able to, do what they could do in the wrestling business. You know what I mean?
And with, Daly's Place, it was just special the way that they did, Dark. And then eventually Dark was so successful that they decided to have Dark Elevation. And, Dark Elevation hasn't really been the best. And Dark really hasn't been the best because it's pretty much just squash matches. You have guys that just aren't being utilized on AEW TV. Like, perfect example, Lance Archer. You have him go on Dark Elevation. He goes against, an independent wrestler, squashes him in about 3 minutes. Next match, same thing happens. But then in the main event, you get two underrated guys against each other. At least they do that. But it gets old after a while, and just having all of these filler matches with no storylines, it was a waste of time. And I think
Yep.
with, AEW making the decision to have Ring of Honor shows take place before Dynamite, smart move, because Ring of Honor, you have different storylines. It's going to feel like an actual television show. And that's
like,
what we want, because Dark and Dark Elevation, yeah, you get some decent matches here and there, but it's mostly squash matches for better records.
and wasn't Ring of Honor when it first premiered or whatever a couple months ago? They were being taped at Universal Studios, whatever, and nobody wants to watch that, man. That's like watching Dark just with different colors, different color scheme.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, man. Just, with AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, the only thing I'm going to miss about Dark Elevation is Matt Menard's, amazing commentary. But besides that, I think, it's best that Dark and Elevation, we move on from it and focus on Collision, because now AEW's got to focus on Dynamite, 2 hours on Wednesday. They need to
Donnie,
focus on, yeah.
you want to know what makes Daddy Magic's nipples hard?
What, subscribing to the We Are Wrestling channel?
Yes, and giving us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcast.
All right, but now, like, my final thoughts just on the Dark Elevation thing. AEW, they got 2 hours of television to focus on Dynamite Live. Thursdays, they got to focus on Ring of Honor. Fridays, they have an hour of Rampage, which is now starting to become the new Dark and Dark Elevation.
They need to get rid of Rampage.
It's on TV. And now they have to focus on Saturdays with Collision for 2 hours.
Except I might be watching Rampage. I can't remember if it's this Friday or next Friday, but that's when the firm deletion, the match at the Hardy compound is going to be. I can't miss that.
You can't miss that.
I can't miss that.
But guys, we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling podcast. One thing We Are Wrestling recommends you to do is support your local independent promotions. They are the stars of tomorrow. And you never know, sometimes when you go to these shows that might only have 10 to 30 people, you could be seeing the next future WWE champion, maybe even the next AEW star. And through the years, I've always been a huge advocate to supporting independent wrestling. And you can't go wrong. It's a cheap night out, you get a good time with the family, and you get to watch some good old wrestling. Independent wrestling, that's where usually a young professional wrestler starts their career. And having these opportunities to perform in front of crowds is a great way to get exposure to where they will eventually be on your television screen watching them every week. We recommend you guys to support indie wrestling.
What is going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. You guys are watching the We Are Wrestling podcast. I want to be acknowledged!
We're back. And let's get into our tweet of the week. So now with the We Are Wrestling podcast, every week I'm going to be picking a random tweet with a wrestling take to give, Danny and Ben their thoughts, their opinions, because they might be toxic wrestling fans like me, but they are not on Twitter. So they don't know what, the IWC is saying on Twitter, because sometimes they could be saying some really good things that we can agree with. But there's other times where they could be very delusional. And that's where the tweet of the week segment is now a part of the podcast. So this tweet was made by @KCIABATTA. Can't pronounce his Twitter name, so I'm just going to spell it out for you. So,
Baba.
bye-bye.
What do you say, man?
Okay, so he said this, and I quote, "Quick reminder for folks mocking Trinity for working with Impact Wrestling." And in the picture, he has the Impact graphic when they signed Cody Rhodes, the Impact graphic when Drew McIntyre, won the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and has a graphic of Kenny Omega wrestling at Hard to Kill. Because, of course, with Trinity, making the news last week about her joining Impact Wrestling, she got a lot of criticism from the IWC, and the Twitter world was going absolutely nuts trying to find a way to roast her. And this one user pretty much laid it all to rest when he showed a screenshot of Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, and Kenny Omega. 3 big superstars in this business.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts on that with Trinity being a part of Impact? Because I know we dived into, her thoughts, on her leaving WWE, but we never really got into your thoughts on, her joining Impact Wrestling.
I think it's good as long as she gets booked properly. Not saying that it's Trinity, so she automatically needs to have the world title. But as long as she's booked properly, she's utilized properly. I think it's a good thing. I think fans in the IWC, man, are very fucking toxic,
Especially on Twitter.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm not on that fucking toxic site, man. Might happen in the future. Who fucking knows? Definitely not on it now. So if you see an account with my name, it's fake and report that shit. But yeah, man, like people are gonna hate regardless who it is. It could be fucking John Cena and Impact. And people would fucking do whatever they could to fucking roast his bald spot on fucking Access. I don't fucking know. People love to hate,
Well,
man,
they can't
especially in the
because they
pro
won't
wrestling.
have access to watching that.
Well, that makes perfect sense because you can't see John Cena.
You can't see John Cena like TNA with access. That's a great way to end tweet of the week. Damn, that was great. Honestly, I love that he posted, the screenshots of, Cody being signed with Impact, because right now Cody's one of the biggest guys in WWE. Drew McIntyre, he worked his way back to WWE just like Cody with the independent circuit and really elevated himself in TNA when he won the world title. And then showing Kenny Omega, who is just, a Mr. 5-star classic himself.
Yep.
And, one of the better non-WWE guys in the business. I think that a lot of people are just overreacting, the haters, with Trinity to Impact, because if there's one thing that we could say, Impact Wrestling definitely has probably the best women's division out of all the promotions. Except
Yeah,
I
but
think Stardom. 'Cause I heard
I fe-
Stardom has a really stacked division too.
I feel like just because you have a great women's division, I feel like that could end very quickly. You know what I mean? So
I don't know, man, because they lose people, but they always find a way to, continue to build their women's division. I think really a lot of it has to do with Gail Kim. She's done a
like
fantastic job.
give that chick a raise, man. Do whatever you can to keep her. Like I said, man, I think it's great that Trinity's in Impact. I think it's great that Mercedes is in Stardom or New Japan. Stardom is the women's side of New Japan, right? Aren't they the
That is,
same thing?
yes, it
So,
is.
I mean, I'm looking forward to what they do in the future, man. Don't pay attention to what people are saying. Pro wrestling has the most toxic fan base on the fucking planet, and they love to hate. I mean, I saw a tweet a couple weeks ago. As you know, probably if you guys are on Twitter, Rhea Ripley's grandmother passed away, and she tweeted about it, and talked about how she misses her and stuff like that, and just a real heartfelt moment. Posted pictures of her and her grandmother, and some e-drone online decided to just do nothing but talk shit and downplay, her grandmother passing away and just saying some of the most grotesque, horrible stuff to her. And I'm just like, really, guy? Like, sometimes pro wrestling fans take shit way too seriously, man. Like,
Way too serious.
you hate this person on TV, so here, this person that's being very vulnerable, talking about one of her family members that passed away, and you're gonna talk shit and downplay the situation. I fucking hate pro wrestling fans are the worst thing about pro wrestling, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it.
Oh yeah. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring, this tweet of the week segment to the We Are Wrestling podcast, because I am active on Twitter trying to grow the We Are Wrestling brand. And I'm always on Twitter because with wrestling news and, NBA, NFL news with sports, you always get the quickest news on there, but always comes the consequence. You have to
Yeah.
deal with trolls. You got to deal with, people with no pictures in their profile pictures.
Hmm.
And I figured, wrestling fans are very toxic, and there are some intelligent ones on there as well. And with Tweet of the Week, we're able to really dive into that person's tweet, whether it's, delusional or if it's actually a really good take.
Bro, if I was on Twitter, man, I'd get into so much fucking trouble. I would just somebody talk because I have no hair on my tongue, man. Somebody starts talking about me, I'll fucking roast the fuck out of them. I don't give a shit. So maybe it's a good thing I'm not on Twitter.
That's right. And the lesson here, folks, is don't be a lemon, be a rosebud, like Adam Rose always said, and believe in yourself.
I'd be the CM Punk of Twitter, man.
I
I'd
feel
roast
like
the
I'm the
fucker.
CM Punk of Twitter sometimes.
Sometimes you need to be though.
Yeah. But now, moving on, before we get into our main event topic, we have to go over the We Are Wrestling rumor of the week. And this is a new thing on the We Are Wrestling podcast where we're going to be diving into a rumor that is going around, because in the wrestling universe, we get our reports, we get our news, but there's lots of rumors that aren't reports. They're just rumors, and you already know on the We Are Wrestling podcast, we love to gossip about pro wrestling. And
Mhm.
with We Are Wrestling rumor of the week, there are rumors going around that Roman Reigns' iconic title reign could be safe until, I can't believe this, September 2024. And one thing that we have seen for reports is that WWE is trying to break more of their title records. And this, by the way, guys, the Roman Reigns title reign is a rumor. And Danny and I, we're just going to gossip about it. Doesn't mean it's 100% true. Hopefully it's not true. I hope this is a rumor.
Listen, I don't mind. I don't mind Roman's title reign. I really don't. People misconstrued, I feel like, what I say a lot of the time. What I do, however, dislike is you have this guy who's very dominating, who doesn't help build up the next guy. Like, you can build guys up and you can make guys look phenomenal without losing. Roman doesn't need to lose the title to build somebody. I mean, look at Sami Zayn. He lost to Roman at Elimination Chamber. He was more popular after that match than he was going into that match. You know what I mean? There's ways to go about it. Now I feel like the last 3 years, they could have built so many main event guys up around Roman Reigns in this, the bloodline storyline. And I just feel like a lot of it, they just underutilized it.
And that's the thing. Unfortunately, when you're having a big, title run like this that's been going on for 3 years, there's good to it, but there's also some bad. Like, if we go back into time with Roman Reigns' title run, he, has evolved some guys. I think every member of the bloodline has gotten better since, the whole
Mhm.
bloodline angle. We saw main event Jay when Jimmy was on the sideline. The Usos had an iconic tag team title run. Solo Sikoa, he's up next. And, even Paul Heyman has been doing some of his best promo work as well. And, with Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, we've also had the unfortunate things happen, like Drew McIntyre not winning at Clash at the Castle in front of his hometown.
And then
That
singing
could have really
karaoke with
and
Tyson
that
Fury.
and that's the thing. That could have taken Drew McIntyre off to the next level that he was supposed to take off, before the whole pandemic, the whole Thunderdome era in WWE.
Mhm.
Same thing, Sami Zayn. A lot of people wanted him to be a main event guy, but Roman ended up winning. Cody Rhodes, a lot of people were very upset with the booking decision to have Roman retain the title because they felt like the time was right to finish the story with Cody Rhodes. And even if Cody Rhodes is the one to beat Roman for the championship, the outcome and, the opportunity, maybe it wouldn't have been as good as it could have been at WrestleMania 39. Because in pro wrestling and sports entertainment, timing is everything.
Yeah.
And with Roman Reigns' title run, it's been a fantastic run. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, downplay it, but at the same time, you have to have solid main event guys go against him. And when you have some of your solid main event guys who you're building up, like Drew McIntyre, like Cody Rhodes, and they're not beating him, then what's next for them? And that causes lots of issues with that because you're focusing on one title run more
Mhm.
than WWE itself.
Exactly.
Do you think, because this is the question here with the rumor of the week, do you think that this rumor is true? Will Roman Reigns be champion until September of 2024?
Um, I do not. I do think Cody takes the title at SummerSlam, but I mean, you never know. I mean, weirder things have fucking happened, bro.
And I think the reason why this rumor is going around is because if Roman Reigns is the champion until September of 2024, I believe he beats not only Hulk Hogan, but he also beats Bruno Sammartino's record.
Bruno Sammartino has had the title for 8 years. It hasn't been 8 years, close to 8 years.
Oh, so maybe it's Hulk Hogan then, I think.
Yeah, because Bruno had the title for 8 years, last I knew.
And that's
It
the
was
thing.
also it was also a different. They didn't have as many shows back then than they do now, so it was a different time.
And that's the thing that I worry about with this rumor if it is true. How can they keep Roman Reigns relevant until then? Because who are they going to continue to bury on this path of greatness? Because you can't have Cody lose the friggin' Roman twice. You can't do
No,
that.
no,
That
I
will
do
completely bury Cody Rhodes.
I do think Cody is gonna be the guy. It's just all a matter of when. They want Cody to face adversity. If he, you know, especially like, and somebody else brought this point up, and it makes a lot of fucking sense when you really break it down and think about it. Tony, Cody Rhodes, man, he was, a part of the Rhodes Scholars and he left. He was Stardust, left. He made himself into a bigger star in the Indies. Then he started an entire other promotion with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Tony Khan obviously as the backer, to compete with WWE, which that's exactly what it was. They were trying to have a different alternative other than WWE. So it was like WWE has competition again. They haven't really had competition since WCW. Um, and obviously Cody Rhodes leaving them, coming back to WWE. We should have known that Cody wasn't going to win the world title because, you know, a lot of people are saying that maybe Vince McMahon and them are punishing Cody for, bringing back competition for WWE again.
Maybe, but I think a lot of it has to do with the adversity because even Dusty Rhodes, back in the day, and I learned a lot of this from my old school versus new school podcast. He had hard times and,
Yep.
his feud with Ric Flair, he didn't win the gold right away. It took him time. He had to, face adversity. And I think Cody Rhodes, he looks at pro wrestling as a story and he looks at it from chapter 1 to the final chapter. And what's going to make the story interesting, you have to, continue to have the viewers invested. And if Cody wins the championship and he finishes the storyline, finishes the story, wins the title, goes on to having the championship for maybe like a year, people are eventually going to get sick of it. And he's going to end up in the same dilemma that he was in AEW, where the fans are going to want him to turn heel because they're getting sick of, this whole babyface crap.
Exactly. But lucky for him, Roman's already one of the biggest heels in the business. You can't have two major heels in the same company. It's not going to work because you need
Exactly.
a really strong baby face.
Exactly, man. And I think that he will lose the championship before September of 2024. I don't see him being champion past WrestleMania 40. I just don't see it.
I hope he doesn't. If he does manage to keep the title until next WrestleMania, I just hope we don't have 2 years in a row Cody versus Roman. I need to see more.
And here's one thing I do want to
Cody
add.
Roman versus Gunther, if that's what I want to see.
And one thing I do want to add to all of this. One final thing. I'm noticing a pattern here. WWE is trying to break a lot of their title records.
Yep.
And my only issue with that is they're doing it all at the same fucking time, Danny. Bianca Belair, she's already been champion for over a year. Gunther, he's about to be champion for almost a year. Austin Theory, he's going on right now to about 6 months as champion. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the Usos, they just broke the record for the tag team championships.
Was it like 600 days or something like that?
Yep. And then Roman Reigns, he's already about to be at 1,000 days. And the thing I have a problem with is they're doing it all at the same time. Like, I'm all for, trying to break some records, but doing it all at the same time, like, that's not good overall for the product. Like, there's other guys out there like Karrion Kross, like Bronson Reed, like Johnny Wrestling, who deserve opportunities, but those opportunities aren't going to be given to them if, you keep these championships on all of these guys for so long. The only one that I really like, if I'm being completely honest with you, is Gunther with his title run.
Bro, to be honest, man, I hate to say this, but when it comes to Johnny Gargano, I feel like a lot of his newness wore off. People were so excited when he came back. He wasn't even good enough to get drafted to his brand on the actual show. We had to wait to Raw Talk. I feel like he's running stagnant and he's not gonna really do much until Tommaso Ciampa comes back and hopefully they reform
DIY,
DIY.
man. We need that team to go back together because that's the only way that both of those guys are going to succeed, I think, on the main roster.
And who
And I
knows?
did hear that the way they might be reforming, which I think could be something that could help Johnny as well,
Well,
having, Candice and Indy with them.
we heard the same thing about the Hurt Business, but apparently they scrapped that idea. So who knows at this point what the fuck they're gonna do, and who knows what Tommaso Ciampa's status is? He just had
Mm,
some some kind of surgery there a couple months ago, whatever, and he's rehabbing. Who knows how long he's gonna be back? It's been over a year and a half since we see Bobby Roode. Who knows what's going on with him? You know, there's just all these guys, Big E, you
Well,
know,
with
Big E.
Bobby Roode, they just did come out that he's going to be out for the rest of 2023 and some of 2024 due to the neck surgery he got.
Yeah, well, even when he, is rehabbed from that, who's to say he's gonna come back at all? Neck surgeries and stuff like that, neck injuries is not something you want to fuck with. I mean, look at draws, power bomb by D'Lo Brown. Dude's been paralyzed ever since. It's going on 24 years. So
Mhm.
neck injuries is not something you want to mess with. But like, there's so many things up in the air. Like, what's gonna happen with Big E? When is Big E coming back? You know what I mean? Apparently, he's been cleared, or he's been off working out and rehabbing since like 4 or 5 months after he broke his neck. Like, who knows what's going
And
on
he's
with
still
him?
waiting. He's still waiting for the doctors to give him the green light completely.
Who
I
knows
think
what's
it's the
really going
WWE
on?
doctors. But now we have some AEW things to talk about in this main event topic. So, on Twitter, the most toxic place on the social media and on, the world of the smartphones, Twitter, one of the most toxic places. ESPN's Mike Cooperings tweeted, and I quote, "Hearing Wembley is scaled for only 40,000 for AEW. Far cry from last April when I was ringside for Tyson Fury, Dylan White, and it was packed to the brim with 94,000. Nothing beats the big fight feel at Wembley." That is clearly not true, and he was called out by Tony Khan with the following tweet: "Lies. What a load of crap. Tell your agent, Nick Khan, to shove it up his ass." Tony Khan followed up with this, and I quote, "Since you carried the credentials of a credible reporter and represent the worldwide leader, I'm just curious, who was your source for this, and how can a reporter representing ESPN tweet something about a legit news story that's so blatantly wrong and easily verified as falsehood?" AEW, as we're recording this episode of the podcast, has sold 43,000 seats so far, beating WCW's Atlanta Dome, which was their most popular, show in WCW during their run. There's been lots of critics continuing to criticize AEW even after this huge accomplishment for this promotion. What are your thoughts on this news of AEW getting 43,000 tickets sold and making so far about $5.7 million off of this? And why do you think AEW is getting so much criticism still, even after, this big milestone for this company?
Because people hate what's new. People are so familiar with WWE and the way WWE operates. AEW is completely different. People, call everybody in AEW indie darlings. They're all from the independent circuit. And the independents get downplayed a lot, but people don't realize like some of the biggest stars, Steve Austin, Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, The Rock, a lot of these guys, man, they came from the indies. You know what I mean? People don't think that AEW is viable competition for WWE. Um, you know, I don't know what to say, man. I do think the show is going to be a success. Do I think it's gonna they're gonna hit, 80,000 people in Wembley? I don't know. I mean, the UK fan base is more diehard. I feel like the UK and Canada are the most diehard pro wrestling fans. So I mean, crazier things have happened. So
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like AEW, it's time that people start, giving credit where it's due. Whether you like AEW or not, you have to respect them for giving these, performers another ultimatum, giving them another opportunity to do what they love. AEW has really opened the door for a lot of these promotions and a lot of, superstars and the future of this business. And if it was just WWE, we would be in the same situation that we were in years ago, where we were just sick of it and we all would have moved on with our lives. Danny, you would just be watching movies and playing video games and doing music reactions. Myself, I probably would still be, making my own original web series and stuff, calling it like it is.
But I
But
like
with
I like being on
AEW,
this podcast, man.
and that's
So
the thing, I love being on this podcast too. And with, AEW, it's really sparked that love for professional wrestling again in a lot of us.
yep.
And I think that one thing that really needs to, a lot of people need to understand that AEW is not going anywhere anytime soon. And everybody can continue to make this a war, this and that. But at the end of the day, why is this a war? WWE and AEW are two completely different wrestling companies out there. WWE, sports entertainment, they focus more on the storytelling and, that stuff that leads into the matches. AEW, they focus on what's in the ring, professional wrestling. There's a difference between both promotions. And if you don't like what's going on in the ring and you like the storylines, you like sports entertainment, go watch WWE. If you don't like the storytelling and you love the spot fest and you love what's going on in the ring more, go watch AEW. Or if you enjoy both, enjoy both. Enjoy whatever wrestling you want to enjoy, but it's time that people in the wrestling community, the We Are Wrestling Maniacs, it's time to put this whole war shit to rest.
Well
Please.
said, man. Well said, man. And I will tell you one thing. And even you said usually you don't watch shows during the day, but even you said you're going to be watching the Wembley show. It's going to be a huge monumental moment, not just for AEW, but for pro wrestling in general, man. It's like AEW is about to make a fucking statement. People need to start paying attention.
Exactly. And even Bully Ray, one of the hosts of Busted Open Radio, even said that why are people hating on this? This is a huge opportunity. And this is a huge W for professional wrestling. AEW, getting 43,000 seats at Wembley. And here's something that I did find on Twitter that I do want to read here from at Wrestling Light, Wrestle Light. Reminder. It took 34 years for WWE to run their first 90K stadium show. It took AEW 4 years. You might not like it, but you have to respect it.
Exactly, man. And like, I don't think they would have I don't think it would have been as many tickets sold if it was like a US stadium show. But bro, UK fans, man, they're a different fucking breed.
And I'll tell you this right now, AEW is fucking brilliant for having this in Wembley Stadium because the UK, they don't get WrestleMania. So AEW said, let's give them all in.
And this is their
Such
first.
an amazing,
This is AEW's first UK show.
great move.
So
And this is a great move to have it as their first show because you have to realize the first ever All In that took place, I believe, in 2018. Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Marty, and Hangman Adam Page, they all betted on themselves. Dave Meltzer went out and told them that you guys can't sell out a 10,000 arena. What did they go do?
didn't it sell out in like a half hour when it got announced?
Sold out in a half hour, 10,000 seats, Danny. And had over 1 million pay-per-view buys. And AEW doing this, I love that they're betting on themselves, and AEW has solidified themselves as, a great professional wrestling company because, yes, they have veterans like CM Punk, John Moxley, Chris Jericho. They have these guys, but one thing that AEW has done very well was establishing their own superstars.
Exactly. Everybody that's a
MJF,
main event.
Sammy
Everybody that's
Guevara,
a
Jungle Boy, Darby Allin.
yep. Everybody that's a main event player on AEW TV is a homegrown talent, bro. They very rarely push, ex WWE guys.
Jamie Hayter, one of the most popular women right now. She's the AEW World Champion.
Orange Cassidy, MJF, you know.
The Acclaimed, one of the most popular tag teams in AEW. They're
Yep.
homegrown AEW talent. And that's the thing. I love that AEW is doing this because All In is pretty much betting on yourself, betting on what you believe in.
Yep.
And I love that All In, they're doing this for this Wembley Stadium show because they're really betting on themselves here. And remind you, 4 years. This promotion has been running for 4 years. And they've been, on TNT doing shows, since October, 4
Yep.
years. And having, them trying to sell out Wembley Stadium 4 years. That's crazy.
It's definitely a good move, man, and we will be here live watching it. We don't know if it's going to be on pay-per-view, but I have a feeling it's going to be on like a HBO service or something like that. It's going to be some asshole online was like, "Yeah, they're not going to be televising the show though." Fuck out of here. They're not going to be televising the show, you fucking moron. People are fucking idiots, bro.
And that's the thing, like, I think a lot of people, they believed in AEW when it first started. And the vision that Tony Khan and the Elite gave us was they were going to be treating professional wrestling like a sport. The records were going to matter. The rules were going to matter. But a lot of that, was just thrown, down the drain.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people, their issue with AEW is one person in particular, Tony Khan. And a
Mhm.
lot of it has to do, I think, with his booking decisions because at the end of the day, Tony Khan is a wrestling fan like we are, like the We Are Wrestling Maniacs are. And sometimes when you're booking a wrestling show, you have to put that fandom aside and do what's best for business.
Yep,
And
exactly.
sometimes he gets himself, caught in, situations, and the morals in AEW, they are very low because they have over 200 talent, signed. They get a debut and then a few weeks later, they don't know what to do with them.
Yep.
Like, didn't they sign Action Andrade? He wrestled Chris Jericho, had a
He was
big
good.
win,
He was good for a while, and then he got
disappeared,
taken off of TV.
disappeared. And I think that's the issue that a lot of people have with TK.
Yep. But we're gonna have to see how this goes, man. I'm excited. This is a monumental time for pro wrestling, and I feel like it's gonna open the doors for the possibility of a lot of other things happening, man. Like the more I don't know about you guys watching, but the more wrestling we get, the better off the business is gonna thrive. You know what I mean? I'm a pro wrestling fan. I don't give a fuck if it's WWE, AEW. I was watching WWE weekly when Vince was running shit. Like I know what's fucking bad and what's good. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I feel like this is gonna open the doors for a lot of people, the possibilities, maybe bigger independent promotion. Northeast Wrestling, one of the biggest independent pro wrestling companies on the planet, maybe they start out holding bigger shows. You know what I mean? This is gonna open the doors for a lot of things.
And that's the thing, like, AEW, this news is incredible. The first day selling out 35,000 and then a few days later 43,000 with $5.7 million dollars. That is fantastic for a promotion that's only been around for 4 years.
And the
And
first
that's the
all
reason why I keep saying the word 4 years is because there's so much criticism with this whole thing. And like people should just shut up and just be happy.
and the first All In show wasn't even an AEW show. It was Ring of Honor, wasn't it?
It was a Ring of Honor show. And they sold 10,000 seats,
In a
which is
half hour,
absolutely
man.
awesome. And AEW pay-per-views, they be getting about that much.
And AEW, man, they have, they're taking shit to the next level, man. So I can't fucking wait for the show. I cannot tell you, like, bro, we get 2 WrestleManias in 1 year. Are you fucking like, are you kidding me? I'm fucking stoked about this.
I'm very excited. I wish I was in the UK, but honestly, TK, giving back to the UK, one of the most passionate fan bases out there. I'm very happy for them because I know for years they have been asking for WrestleMania, and all these, US states, they continue to, win the bids and get
Mhm.
WrestleMania. And a lot of people in the UK have been very, disappointed. But now Tony Khan, has given them a big show. They're giving them All In. And with All In, you really don't know what's going to happen. All the forbidden doors are going to be open, and there's going to be some dream matches on this show because there's going to be about 80,000 people watching. I
And bro,
cannot
like
wait.
like I said, man, like the UK fan base is fucking winning, bro. Because in July they have Money in the Bank, and then at the end of August they have All In. Like, bro, they are fucking winning
They
at life
deserve
if
it, man.
they're winning at life if they're pro wrestling fans.
They deserve it. And like a lot of people, push under the rug that, like AEW, like I knew that they're going to sell out this show because the UK fans, they're so passionate. Even when Impact Wrestling lost so much momentum during the time, like 2016, they even did some UK tours and they sold out in bigger arenas than they were in the US because at the end of the day, the UK fan base is stronger than the US fan base when it comes to this sport.
Bro, the UK fan base, man, they're different beasts. So I'm looking forward to this
I
show,
love
man.
going on. That's one thing I love doing too at my free time. I love going on YouTube and watching some of these independent UK promotions out there.
I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. I can't wait for the show.
Absolutely. But to the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there listening, watching, let us know in the comment section below your thoughts on all the things that we covered on this week's episode of the podcast. Later on tonight, we will be live on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel and Danny H Vlogs YouTube channel for a multi-stream for WWE Backlash. If you're looking for a buddy to watch it live with, we could be your buddies. If you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling podcast, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, follow us on, our, podcasting services because we really want to start expanding on the audio side of things. And of course, our YouTube channel as well. The link's down in the description below. You can go follow Danny and I on our social medias and other YouTube pages, all that down below. In addition, you want shorter clips of the podcast. You don't want to sit through an hour and a half of Danny and I just talking wrestling. We have shorter clips over on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All the links down below. And of course, to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide listening and watching, we appreciate each and every one of you. And of course, you already know we are taking over. Peace.